Welcome to Ecommerce Revamped, where we break down the hottest trends, insider tips, and strategies shaping the future of e-commerce. Powered by Miva, the engine behind seamless online stores. Now here are your hosts, Rob Stanley and Rick Wilson.
Hey everyone, welcome to another great episode of Ecommerce Revamped. Of course, I'm Rob Stanley. My great co-host and friend Rick Wilson's here with me. Hey Rick, how's it going?
Robbie. It's going great.
So-
Watching that intro video, I need to get new headshots. My hair has shrunk my hair shrunk about 2 inches since I took that photo.
Yeah. I just don't have any hair. But we have a great one here today. Steve Simonson, good friend of mine, and also founder and CEO of Parsimony, is going to be coming on the show. In fact, we're going to bring him in right now and get things kicked off. But just so you know what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk about how to boost your e-commerce sales with proven growth strategies with Steve Simonson. Let's let him in the studio here. Hey, Steve.
Gentlemen, good day to you. And I can't wait to hear all these tips you're going to share. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Same with you. We can't wait
We
either.
have our lines crossed.
Yes. Apparently there's been a mistake. No, I'll do my best to share a few tips and tricks along the way.
Absolutely. You know what? Let's kick this right off and start with Steve. How has e-commerce evolved and what things remain constant? That's a big question, though. So why don't you just narrow into what you see maybe lately, what has been like really changed or evolved in e-commerce?
Well, maybe if I start with what's consistent, right? We're still selling stuff online. That's the easy part. So let's put that in the bank. Now, the hard part, of course, is the only constant is change, right? And so we can talk about the latest buzzwords. We can talk about, the AI and who's winning and who's losing and so forth. But the reality is to acquire a customer and to do it profitably, and then to make the synchronization of the execution and fulfillment work, that is continuing to evolve on every level, right? So, if you're waking up in the morning and you're like, okay, I've got to make some sales, I've got to fulfill those sales, I've got to make some new leads, and oh, great, I've got some supply chain issues, right? We got geopolitics. So the evolution, I would say, is it's just gotten bigger in terms of the complexity. I can tell you when I started in the late 90s, we didn't look up and see what the tariff battle of the day was. We didn't bother to check our non-existent social media. We just tried to make leads and sell those leads and make them happy.
Yeah, I mean, if in the 90s, you and I got into this business around the same time, Steve, back in the 90s, your number one problem was getting found on a search engine. And way back then, it was mostly like stuffing the same word over and over and over so that Yahoo would pay attention to you, and then Google after that. And there was a lot of first mover advantage back then. The first person to sell motorcycle helmets got the motorcycle helmet space, and there was a lot of that. But yeah, the thing that has changed so much is how you find your clients, and then keeping the circus going behind the scenes so they get their product.
Boy, it is a circus too. I can say that, when you find a channel of marketing that works, our immediate instinct, at least mine, I'll speak for myself, is to maximize that channel, right? And so we'll find whatever that initial formula is that has promise, and then we just try to dial it right to the top of the mountain. And often we go past the point of efficiency, the so-called efficient frontier, and we're spending now too much, right? And so that the eye on marketing spend, is it profitable? How long can we replicate it per channel, per client type? All of that continues to evolve. And I think we just get smarter, right? We think about slicing and dicing a little bit more granular as we learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, you mentioned earlier about supply chain. Like, what can some of the small businesses do to build a resilient supply chain?
Well, gosh, this one certainly has evolved as well. So when we started in the late 90s, I was one of the crazy people in, 2001 that's, over in China trying to figure out how to, spin the Rubik's Cube of opportunity. And people thought I was a nut to go online. They thought I was a nut to go to China. Well, it's possible I'm a nut, by the way. But as things have evolved right now, China is a little bit more, I now say, hey, you should be mitigating your risk and hedging your bets as it relates to China. And people think I'm nuts for that. So I'm sticking on brand, but I definitely would tell people, be very cautious when it comes to supply chain and just assuming you can do what you've always done. for the past, I would say 10 years, we've been very focused on mitigating risk, hedging against the China risk, which is significant and at this moment growing, and not assume that, whatever you're doing will still work in 3 years.
Or even 3 months sometimes.
Well, yes, that is actually quite prescient.
Absolutely. Steve, I happen to know a lot about you and a lot about the businesses you work in, but, I'd like people to understand a little bit better about like maybe some of the systems they should put in place when they're scaling their e-commerce business. You are really good at systems, so maybe you could give some people some tips on scaling systems.
Well, first, I believe that anything that is going to repeat and be done, kind of on a consistent basis should be a system. If it's something that randomly happens and there's some big problem, you don't have to build a system around that weird edge case. But if this is a daily occurrence for sure, or weekly, or even monthly, right? Closing your books, you might do monthly, and weekly, you might review your inventory, and daily, you're checking your sales and margin and, various marketing channels. But I would start to just think about what those, various data points, KPIs, a lot of people call them, or rocks, pick your favorite word. And I would just start putting them on one, whether it's a spreadsheet or Airtable, like it doesn't matter. I'm not here to say there's one system that has to rule the world, but building that replicatable systemic approach, no matter what you do. And we do it for everything. We do it for HR. We do it for purchasing, right? Our purchase orders are in a system so that we can track and we can see who it's going to and how much is outstanding. When is it due? And we have customs clearance system. So as you grow, right, and bear in mind that I exited some businesses, 7 brands in the last several years, and we were clearing around 140 to 160 containers a month inbound to the US. So golly, it's a pretty good idea to have a system of inbound customs clearance and knowing where all your containers are. But if you're only doing one every 6 months, you don't have to build the same system I did, right? So it's all relative, and the context of each individual business matters. But I definitely would say systems will absolutely be a foundation your business can survive on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, what about a recommendation on? I think you have a tool even for SOP type stuff. Could you maybe mention a little bit about that and how it integrates with e-commerce sellers?
Yeah. So for any company that's let's just say selling millions of dollars a year, you have a staff typically, right? So, and we're living in the salad days, by the way, of e-commerce. Everybody who tells you his life's terrible, it's only getting harder and worse. 2 things could be true. It is getting harder, but it ain't getting worse. This is really the salad days. So, back when I started trying to figure out how to hire somebody, it was like, come in, do a physical interview, sit in my office, and watch what happened. Today, you can just get gig workers to go out and do some of these things. So when it comes to SOPs, you need to train these folks, right? And once the system is built, you want to be able to just go, hey, here's how we do this process each and every day, the human piece of that puzzle. So, for big enterprises, we built an SOP program that essentially you could even use AI in it that will just go, hey, how do you, put this order into this shipping system or, whatever it happens to be. And it helps you build out that, which is highly valuable. We call this, the company intellectual equity, right? It's the knowledge base of your company, extraordinarily valuable. And when people leave the company, sometimes that knowledge leaves with them. So I highly recommend anything that is going to be replicatable. Just have an SOP. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does give them, the thought process, and they can tweak it and add it as they go. That is a mission critical thing if you want to scale, right? Not everybody wants to scale, but if you want to grow, it's going to take people, it's going to take systems, including SOPs.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I was going to say, I had a question from what you said the very outset. You talked about how when you find a channel, you like squeeze it for all it's worth, so to speak, which I couldn't agree more, right? I mean, that's kind of why we're all here. And so you said oftentimes we sort of, I forget what the term you used was, but past the top of the efficiency curve. Can you explain that kind of in layman's terms to someone listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, may I suggest I give you a very painful story from my past. So if you guys have any sad music, you can cue it up now. So we're hard charging. This is the early 2000s, and we're spending $100,000 a month, and we're getting $1 million in sales. We're spending $200,000 a month on PPC. We're getting $2 million in sales, and $300,000 gets us $3 million. $400,000 gets us $4 million, and this is happening just several months at a go. And I'm impatient. I'm a classic entrepreneur. I don't know nothing. I'm impatient. Let's get it done. Let's climb the mountain already. So I'm like, just skip to the end. And we spent $750,000 that month on PPC, and we got about $4.5 million of sales. And it's like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
And that we call that the efficient frontier. This is a mathematical formula that basically, at some point, our bids were running ourselves up, right? Our willingness to bid higher and to capture more of that market past the efficiency level. And anybody who looks up the efficient frontier on the search engine will be able to find, diagrams and explanations. But, we licked our wounds. We're like, all right, we spent $300,000 too much that month. That hurts. Let's dial it back for a second. And we looked at all the systems, and sometimes marketing is a little bit of a black box, and we made some guesses. And so we spent $500,000 and we got about $5 million, and we're like, all right, we're back, baby. Let's do it again. And so the next month we spent $750,000 and we did about $5 million. And so that was basically the end of that channel. By the way, for those keeping track at home, Rick is laughing at the $500,000 I burned. Thanks, Rick. And
I think I'm just having a feeling a kindred spirit, an entrepreneur who has felt lots of pain in the climb. Climbing mountains feels good from certain vantage points, but there's a similarity in these stories.
Misery does love company. I'm with you. I agree. Hard knocks are how I learned the best lessons. Maybe it's the only way I learned. But that efficient frontier, once it turned over, there was no amount of tinkering that we could do. That channel for that methodology had reached its peak, and we found the maximum efficiency. There's no question at that time we knew exactly what it was. And that happens in every channel. So it's a little bit naive to go, oh, well, email's working so well, I'm just going to 10x it or 100x it or whatever your marketing channel is. No, there is a limit what you can do efficiently. Now you can listen, Google and the rest of them will take your money and put it in the proverbial wood chipper forever. No problem. You can spend forever. But, I like to say that you do not have a real world-class brand until you can pour money in the top of that marketing funnel and have predictable profit come out of the bottom. Then you got a great business. That's a real business.
100%.
Absolutely. I did the same thing. I think one of my years dropped $500,000 into Google Ads and got 100,000 out of it. That's definitely the wrong direction. But you bring up these metrics and these different, I guess I wouldn't say necessarily tools, but a metric could be a tool. And so when it comes to things like tools or software, what kind of role do those play in e-commerce, and how do you choose the right one, either tool or software?
Well, again, context really matters. So I think of it in a, different levels of the matrix, right? So one, hey, can I afford this concept to begin with? Because we're not starting a conversation I can't afford. And then kind of two, hey, how durable is this thing? Is it going to grow with me? Or am I going to surpass it? Assuming, just a little bit of my dreams come true. Am I going to outgrow this thing? Because that's a real concern. I can't tell you how many times we put something into place, whether it was an SEO program or an email program or something, and then we just kind of outstripped their capabilities. If you're a fast growth and if your mind is on that, prize, the house on the hill, so to speak, I would make sure that it has the scalability to match you. So there's cost, there's scalability, and then there's just what's the UI UX, right? Is it easy for my people to use, and do they hate me because they have to use it? Initially, by the way, the answer is almost yes. Universal yes. Every new system will be hated. That's how you know you're on the right track.
Until it's indispensable.
Yeah, and then I always go, great, no problem. In 1 year, if you still hate it, I will absolutely turn back. And in 1 year, they're like, I will murder you if you try to, take this away from me. So in leadership, sometimes you have to make those difficult decisions. You have to, again, talk about the promise of the house on the hill. Listen, you're going to love this. Here's why it's going to be great. I know it's a challenge to learn something new, but golly, once you can just live in this new world, right? It's the the before after bridge. Many people know this BAB framework for marketing. Before our lives are like they are. After we do this, they're going to be great lives. They're going to be such a wonderful life. The bridge, oh, hey, it's this software solution, and you can all be a part of building it. And so, software is a huge, important component. In fact, I say it's the secret to our ability to scale. We could never have scaled from, the old days of $1 million a year to, $2 million a year to $10 million a year to 50 to 100 plus and, 200 and beyond. So if you have the, the interest in chewing glass, as Elon Musk says, and running your own business and enjoying it, by the way, you have to smile when you chew the glass, then, you want to have something that can grow with you. And I love to build stuff. That's what I love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, I'd like to talk to Steve a little bit more about kind of what makes some of these brands really stand out in the e-commerce market, and what makes them different and kind of makes them really stand out compared to others out in the market right after this commercial break.
Need an e-commerce platform that's as ambitious as you are? Miva empowers your business with seamless design, top-tier features, and the flexibility to scale. For serious growth and a better online experience, it's got to be Miva. Visit miva.com/podcast and start building success today.
So head on over to miva.com/podcast. We have a free downloadable ebook over there that you can, and it's going to be rotating monthly. So each month you got to check back for a different one, but head on over to miva.com/podcast. We're on with Steve Simonson. And today we're talking about boosting your e-commerce sales with proven growth strategies. And right before the break, I was asking Steve about kind of what distinguishes or makes brands different in today's e-commerce market.
Well, let's close that open loop, Rob, shall we?
Well,
the first thing is, I think that anybody who's not paying attention to the lowest hanging fruit of AI, which is code word marketing, they're going to get left behind. 2 years ago when ChatGPT had its moment and everybody started realizing, okay, well, this thing could do a few things. We got as neck deep as we could into it. We'd always use machine learning and things like that, sentiment analysis and so forth. So the idea of generative AI, well, to be honest with you, I was a skeptic. And for the first week, I'm like, I'm going to find out why this is a fad and why I shouldn't bother caring about it. And by the end of that, I'm working 12 hours a day going, we're falling behind. We've got to use it. And I think generative AI itself is an absolute gift to marketeers. The things you can do with audio and visual and writing and the mechanisms and the tone of voice and the unique approach to the audiences, the touch points systemically, whether they're customer service bots or voice bots or outbound calls from the bots, like the amount of opportunity is absolutely staggering and super exciting if you like to, do that sort of thing, marketing and getting more customers. I'm a fan personally.
Yeah. The moment of generative AI, I think I almost hate to make a comment because by the time we publish this, it's going to be out of date. But I will say that I'm with you. It was November of 22, I guess. November of 22, ChatGPT. I'd known about OpenAI, but ChatGPT, as we think of it today, burst on the scene, and I would say a lot of our success at Miva has been knowing which trends to follow and which fads to skip, right? We're fighting, we bootstrapped the business for a very long time, and now we're private equity backed, but still very capital efficient, as in I don't take money from other people and then burn it up. And so you've got to have a good instinct about that. And it's gone from this is intriguing to this can help me write emails to this can write some marketing content to this can take actions on my behalf. It can now be market research. The pace of change right now is unbelievable. And for a timestamp, we're recording this the day after OpenAI released the product called Open Research. So we're recording this on February 3rd, 2025. And I would say in the last 4 weeks, the first 5 weeks or so of 2025, OpenAI and the AI industry have released multiple products that caused me to rethink the way I can systematize my business.
100% true. Yeah. If I could just add to that, that promise of a new tool or concept, that's not unique to AI, right? There's always somebody's got some new little needle thing, but generative AI and the methodology of LLMs and the learning methods that they can put into place and then allow us to use those. This is not the same as the innovation of the PC, which is when I came in, or the advent of the internet or the cell phone. This is like electricity or fire, right? Man will never be the same. There's
probably
nothing bigger. Yeah.
Well, and one thing I was going to ask you about, like, so what I've noticed is like previous systems were good at repeating tasks without thinking, right? But if you're like me, like over the years, I would think, okay, I want a blog post on this subject. And then I would go to my social media writer and I would have a 20-minute call where I'm trying to flesh out the concept of a blog post. And then what I get back, and I've paid them now for a few hours of work, what I get back is garbage. And I'm like, God, I could have done this better myself on just those 20 minutes. And so then what I found myself over the years doing is I just stopped creating as much content personally, because I'm not a professional content creator, even though I am a spring of ideas. And now at a place where with ChatGPT Pro and then even DeepSeek as of last week, any of the reasoning models, I can go, it doesn't take me 20 minutes anymore. I can spend a minute, maybe a minute and a half crafting the correct prompt, putting in to the recipe, if you will. Prompts are like recipes, right? They're just like cooking. If you put all the pieces in and you ask it the right question, you get out amazing content. And now you can generate content. Like if you made your money previously writing mediocre text for a mid-tier salary, you should be worried because that day is over.
Yeah. Absolutely. The good news is if you are adequatulent is how we score the mediocres. You can, if you use AI, you can now be great. Right?
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah, absolutely. As long as you stay up to date on the tools, this doesn't mean something bad's going on for you. But this is kind of the point. You have to stay up to date with the game.
Yeah, the threat is not that AI will replace your job. It's somebody with AI will replace your job. In the future, AI is a threat to certain jobs. But the focus for me is entirely around what you just described. It's what wasn't possible before is now possible today with AI. And I would extend that story you shared, like it doesn't matter how great of a writer you are, it's the amount of minutes it takes to spin up something worthwhile and to change the tone of voice and the writing style and the length and the depth. That applies to images. It now applies to videos. It applies to just about anything that you can imagine, right? I don't know if you guys have ever played around with those songwriting AIs.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing, right? And like,
yeah, they're great. I'm on a text thread with some childhood friends, and like a joke will come up, and then I'll make a song and I'll send it, and it all happens in seconds.
Yeah. So Sonu, I think, is the name of that one that I like to use.
Yeah, that's the one I've been using too.
Yeah, like brands, you should be using that because you could have an AI system. If you plug into the API, write a song about that user and the stuff they bought. I'm not suggesting you should do that, but like you can get that granular. And
even in the more mundane you were talking about with images. I mean, it wasn't long ago that you paid top dollar to have someone make all your images the same size with the same background.
Right.
and it was someone who was good at Photoshop, who was good at being particular or specific. They could be very like detail oriented and get them right, because product images make a lot to this day and probably forever will make a huge difference in how you buy online. And now the AI can automate and throughput that task.
Absolutely. And add all of those lifestyle images that we all paid through the nose for, right? It's already bad enough to get the perfect product thing, but then throw in the lifestyle shots and we're breaking the bank over here. But it's going to have that. There are many, many resources on how you can do that. There's also the product development side where you just like, I'm a terrible, artist, but I can just sketch some rough things and then put in a prompt. And that thing is a miracle in front of your eyes. And for those coming to Miva boot camp or whatever it's called, I'm definitely
Miva.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I got off brand there. But over there at Camp Miva, I'm going to be showing some of my favorite tools for e-com guys just like you.
Absolutely. You know, that brings up a good question, actually, Steve. I was going to ask you if you could maybe share, at least on a weekly basis, a few of your favorite AI tools that you use for your business or e-commerce in general, or maybe what you'd recommend.
Well, gosh, there's so many. One of them that I really like for product development, I was just mentioning, is Krea, Krea. It allows you, again, to just put in a rough physical drawing. You can just use your computer and mouse, and you make a square and you make a little thing, and then you're like, make that a purse with this texture and this style and this material. And right in front of your eyes, you can spin it around and it'll do all the things. It is a breakthrough for guys like myself. We've done product development for years, and we had to do it the hard way. I would write the pencil sketch, then I would send it to somebody. And by the way, the pencil sketch was essentially a stick figure, right, holding something that nobody could identify. It was terrible. And then I would explain it to somebody like Rick talked about for 20 or 30 minutes. Get back, the first draft is always garbage. And it's like, no, I said a circle and you made a rectangle. We're not on the same page. Now it's instant. And when you have that, then you can send it now to a factory and go, I want the packaging to look like that, or I want the product to look like that. I still use ChatGPT Pro daily for any types of general inquiries or formatting, reformatting. I would encourage people to take a look. Hey, you can go to mymentorsteve.com. It is a custom GPT and I've uploaded a ton of my knowledge base, if you will, podcasts, things like that. But the reason I mention it is not because, it's a free thing. You don't have to pay me nothing for it. But that concept of a custom GPT is highly valuable for every organization on planet Earth. To be able to have a no-code solution where you're dropping in documents, and now you've created a custom GPT expert on that subject that will speak in whatever tone of voice you tell it to. So I like to make some jokes and occasional poorly formatted metaphor, and this GPT will do that. It can be as illiterate as I am. So that just shows that technology has a future. There are so many, Rob, that it just, it's overwhelming at times. But I highly recommend. I'm going to go through, 10 or 20 of them at Camp Miva, and they will be hard-hitting, powerful. Like, if you don't use one of these within the next 24 hours, you're missing out kind of stuff.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. One of my favorites, you were talking about lifestyle images, ecomtent.ai. A good friend of mine, will probably have him on the show, in a few months. He'll actually isolate your image of your product and build out lifestyle images based on what you basically describe. So maybe it's a camping stove in the woods with a tent behind it that's glowing, and here's your camping stove and, several colors or whatever you need. Really cool. Had him on my previous podcast. Definitely get him on again. Steve, before we switch over to talk a little bit more about Parsimony and everything, I do want to kind of ask you a little bit about and you covered one of these, and there's probably many since you've been in the e-commerce world, but kind of what are, major lessons learned from business failures? You gave one example already, but.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to loop back to my failures, Rob. Maybe we can make this a highlight reel. Well, first of all, I would say, my axiom zero is I've now marketized the things that a crazy old guy says. But when you marketize it, it sounds cool. If you just repeat yourself, people think you're nuts. So what I like to say is I don't know nothing about nothing. And really what I mean by that is I want to approach everything from a basis of what can I learn? What don't I know? How does this impact me or my business or my people? And by the way, sometimes my pre-existing bias is right? I'm not always wrong. My instincts are pretty good. But not unlike the ChatGPT story, it was not a fad. It, in fact, is the future. And Rick alluded to this earlier. I've built my career around the technological advancements of mankind, right? The PC helped me get really good at PCs. The internet helped me get really good at sales and marketing and all that stuff. The cell phone helped accelerate sales, right? AI is going to change all of that and then some. And so, being open is a big key that I would suggest people are open to things. Keep your instincts and so forth about you. I definitely trust my instincts, but just in the case of something, being new and novel, please keep an open mind. The other thing is, notwithstanding AI and the agentic future that is going to exist, right? We now have agents that just handle jobs that humans used to handle, and they do it as well or better. And then the humans can do higher value add stuff, right? That's a good outcome. But that agentic future will still require people to manage it. So let's not kid ourselves. The world must have really talented people, and how you build, recruit, and maintain a team is always going to be a skill that entrepreneurs generally are terrible at, by the way. But we must learn it, and we must persevere, and we must learn, that the people are actually what allows a system to scale, right? It's strategy. Where are you going? Then it's systems. How are we going to, kind of have the vehicle to get us there? And then scale is code word for people, right? And although, again, the world is changing, so maybe the people is not the same emphasis. I think today, people who use AI and people who understand that bright house, on the hill in the sun, that's the people that you need around you. So never forget that the people are the, secret sauce, as I see it.
Absolutely. No, I that's a great answer, and I appreciate that. Steve, why don't you talk a little bit about Parsimony and what you have multiple companies and multiple things going on, but let's talk about that one in particular and what people can find there and how it's going to help them.
Well, so Parsimony itself is kind of a company, a software, cloud-based software company that we built mostly to help ourselves. So selling stuff over the years, you just learn, I need to do this, I need to do that. And sometimes it would displace existing software. Sometimes we built it where it didn't exist. And so Parsimony itself just evolved, over the course of time out of necessity primarily. And once I looked and, said, well, I'm selling these brands. COVID was kind of a seminal moment for us. We did very well. We made a lot of good bets, but I went from 2 hours a week on, supply chain to 17 hours a day. And it was a nightmare for, 2 years. And so I'm like, I'm done selling products. I don't get any highs from selling more containers, but I do enjoy and I find fulfillment in helping entrepreneurs. So how can I take this software and put it in front of folks who are on the growth path and help them grow with a little less pain than I endured? So that's the foundation of Parsimony. The concept is just, how do you do more with less, right? It's less investment, it's less people ultimately, because systems are running a large part of the business. And that is evolved into different products. So we have the full ERP product, or you can do just the HR product if you have a growing team. You can even do just some of the AI bots. Like I love the promise of these customer service bots. Like that thing can speak multiple languages. You can come in and talk to it 24 hours a day. I did have it call in for a coffee break once, but I put a stop to that. The bots are no more coffee breaks, and they just keep going. And now we can do that with voice. And so the promise of some of these products that are being built and the marketing automation tools and things like that, it's all to make the life of the entrepreneur and the life of the personnel within that entrepreneurial business better. If we don't make life better for those users, we don't have a future. So that's our philosophy is make life better for the user and then watch them grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, for those that are listening, why don't you go ahead and tell them how to get a hold of you and the website to go to for that?
Yeah, so if you go to parsimony.com, you can take a look around. We've got lots of videos. One of the videos, by the way, will loop back to one of the favorite tools I have, which is Notebook LM. You dump a bunch of files in there, and it makes a 2-person podcast, really making us all redundant here, just so you know. Raise your hand if you're redundant. Hey, everybody. But no, it really creates beautiful content, and it looks at it in ways we never considered, by the way. It's not just a nice form, it's a whole new perspective. So anyway, we've got some of those embedded on the site, either in video or audio form. Take a look at parsimony.com. And if you want to reach out and talk to crazy old Steve, you can go to steve@parsimony.com and email me. And if you are up late at night, mymentorsteve.com will be your lovely friend all through the day and night. Whatever language you want to speak, it'll tell you whatever you want to hear.
Yeah,
Steve has a
he has a free ChatGPT. They're not plugins anymore. They're
GPTs. Yeah,
GPTs. Yeah. So for everybody listening, Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com, parsimony.com. And that's Steve@parsimony.com. Steve, always great having you on. Actually, we missed one thing. If you want to see Steve live coming up in March, this actually may be a little bit of a tight time frame when this actually goes live, but head on over to campmiva.com, campmiva.com. Check out campmiva.com. Steve will be there. He's going to be on stage talking about all kinds of really cool AI stuff. We have a very AI focused Camp Miva this year. And if you happen to miss it, then you're going to want to pay attention to campmiva.com and, be there next year, because we've got more and more really cool things coming up every year on Camp Miva. And Steve, always great seeing you. Hopefully when you fly down to Camp Miva, you get business class and not stuck in economy. That's another joke. You guys have to go research that one. Always great
prayers
to
go out to me, everybody. It could happen. I'm flying all the way from Prague, just so you know, just to come to Camp Miva.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
I can guarantee you, not only am I going to bring some great knowledge and obvious humor, but I love to meet entrepreneurs. So if you see me in the hallway, and whether I've been on stage or not, let's have a chat. I just love entrepreneurs. Anything I can do to help any entrepreneur, I absolutely will do.
I'll give everybody a tip. Bring Steve a Coke Zero, and you will definitely. Oh, Diet Coke. You switched a couple times. So, Diet Coke. Bring Steve a Diet Coke. You'll get his attention. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We can't wait to see you on the next episode, and we appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Ecommerce Revamped. Ready to take your e-commerce business to the next level? Visit Miva.com for the tools to build seamless online stores and unforgettable customer experiences. Until next time, keep your carts full and your customers happy.